Let's say you go down to your local bank and speak to the manager about getting a home loan. You have a good job, a 20% down payment, and you have always been very responsible with your credit card and your car loan, so you get approved to borrow $400,000 to purchase that new home. Good on you. And for most people, this is where their inquiries into the bank would end. They would get their $400,000 to settle on their new property and they would be very happy little jelly beans. But what actually went on here? A lot of people have a lot of assumptions about where that money actually came from, and most of them are probably not true. If you really open up the hood of the modern monetary system, you will find something very far removed from what most people would expect, and even something that is pretty different to what existed just 100 years ago. Cash is something that is so important to a society because it is the counter asset to almost every transaction we make. We buy houses and cars and avocado toast with cash. We get paid in cash and we pay our taxes in cash. Modern monetary theory is a very contentious macroeconomic idea that goes a long way to explaining how money works in a modern economy, and then by extension how cash and fiscal spending and monetary policy can be used to benefit the greater good of society. Some people go so far as to say that the proper utilization of modern monetary theory will mean that economic slowdowns or recessions like the one we are probably going into at the moment can be all but eliminated. And if that wasn't all enough, modern monetary theory makes sense of how massive government debt, like the trillions of dollars owed by the US government right now, isn't necessarily a huge deal. But of course, as with every new economic theory, there are critics with genuine criticisms. But we can address those later. In the meantime, forget everything you think you know about money and get ready to learn it all over again.
Absolutely wonderful introduction. And as part of my quest to help my community understand and learn as much as they can about their investments, today I want to talk about money, okay? Money. And again, if we're in crypto, it is absolutely vital to understand this at this moment in time, at this juncture, okay? Only 11% of fiat is in money form, right? Only 11% of fiat is in money form. And you might be thinking, what are you talking about? It is imperative to understand that the credit system, the world has to shift away from the credit system. So we're in a, whether we're in a boom or bust, at the end of the day, money will be printed. It's just a case of how long and who survives. And that also helps us in what to do with our money post the bull market, right? So fiat, in terms of definition, in terms of history, in terms of even macroeconomics, as you hear, Bitcoin's a safe haven, for example, in macroeconomics. Like Bitcoin is now deflationary, the only perfect money. But fiat money, what is the definition? Before we even talk about Bitcoin, this is basically the condition of money's function. Fiat is a Greek word for let there be, which captures the control that the government has over its sovereign currency, right? Is the US dollar fiat money? Of course. Yes, it's fiat money. The US dollar is the biggest fiat currency globally because the currency is backed by something of supposed value. In this case, the faith of the US government, right? Bonds. You with me? Bonds, right? That's why it gets complicated. We have faith to buy US government debt, and US government debt normally is something that is guaranteed, not by gold. Nixon took the US off the gold standard. Okay. And these are very important concepts to learn. And of course, you may be asking, so why is fiat valuable? The value of fiat money is derived from the supply and demand, as well as the stability of the government. Hence, it was such a big deal for the US government to lose its AAA rating, right? It's still very good, probably better than most nations globally, Okay. Perhaps more important is the need for people to use money and to have faith for me to give you a piece of paper and for you to reciprocate your product or service to me in the form of selling that. And despite the notion that these currencies are purely driven by an idea, there are some physical factors that give fiat money its value. The fact that citizens of a country must pay their taxes in their country's sovereign currency drives demand, supply and demand, right? And of course, it stabilizes the worth of that fiat currency. And these are all easy things to understand. But remember I said Bitcoin is the perfect money. And of course, in crypto now, what we have is the innovation that will drive the exchange of that value. Okay? So you have to understand money, how it works. And of course, money has pros and cons. So fiat is inherently a kind of false, like literally it has no value. It has no value because, fiat money is governed, and governments around the world issue this fiat money, right? And fiat money gives central banks greater control over the economy, lower rates, increased rates. Now, modern paper currencies such as the US dollar, of course, are the definition of these faith-based currencies. One danger of fiat currencies is that governments can print too much, resulting in what's called hyperinflation. Okay? And hyperinflation, okay, is a real danger. So hyperinflation in the 1930s was an absolute disaster. And one actual historical reference is a place called the Weimar Republic. So for those of you who know your history, you'd understand that this is Germany after World War I. So let's have a bit of a history lesson here. So hyperinflation impacted the German paper mark, the currency of the Weimar Republic between 1921 and 1923, primarily mostly in 1923. The German currency had significant inflation during the First World War due to the way in which the German government funded its war effort through borrowing. With debts of 150 billion marks by 1918, the national debt was subsequently increased by 50 billion marks. And of course, reparations payable in cash, okay? So, and again, taking raw commodities like coal, timber, under the May 1921 London Scheduled Payments Agreement, the Treaty of Versailles. Now, that led to World War II, right? The Second World War, and part of the reasons why Hitler was using the Second World War as his main driver was the Treaty of Versailles, which they felt was very much against Germany. Now, inflation continued post-war. Particularly in August 1921, the German central bank began buying hard cash with paper currency at any price, which they claimed would pay reparations as to the Allies. The currency stabilized in 1922, but hyperinflation took off and exchange value of the mark fell from 320 marks per dollar in mid-1922 to 7,400 marks per US dollar. All right. This hyperinflation continued into 23. November 23, the US dollar was worth look at that, 4.2 billion marks. Various measures were introduced. And of course, if you saw the bread lines and all the other impacts that come with hyperinflation, you start to realize how crazy hyperinflation is. Now, opposite to that, of course, you also have the stagflation threat, which can actually impact and destroy an economy. And we are heading to, in my opinion, to be a very difficult post this bull market. That's why it's very important for everybody here who's connected to me to be completely switched on, because these are not theories. Every so many years, the entire global financial system gets through a complete revamp and, of course, a reset. So why am I telling you all of this? I'm telling you with one thing in mind. As we enter this period of, in my opinion, Bitcoin being the perfect reserve currency globally, and nation states are squabbling over this, what you have to understand is, if you are lucky enough to get out of this market, you must have money management skills. And if you don't have it, you need to learn it. And how do you learn it? In today's age, ignorance is absolutely unacceptable. Now, there's so many ways you can actually, hopefully take what you consider to be either large sums or break even or small money and try to create a very good practice. Now, there are those that teach the ideas of learning to live within your means. And the issue with that is it can actually get you into a 9-to-5 mentality, right? So what do? So there are several practices that you can do, several things that you can do to actually make your life a lot easier. And these are these are available everywhere. And I care about my community enough to understand that the money-making days are coming. And because the money-making days are coming, you must be prepared to try and survive the next bear market and thrive and make generational wealth once and for all. I mean, how do you do that? You create a budget, right? It's an easy thing to do. Get an Excel file, create a budget, and of course, this will prepare you very well in terms of your estimations, controlling your finances. Most people could technically put more money into their investments, but unfortunately, nobody lives by a budget-driven system. Now, it can be restricting, of course. If you're going out every weekend and spending money on restaurants, then you're effing up the investment. Save first, spend later. The more fiat you accrue, the ability for you to buy the disaster, and it will happen, and it's likely to happen in 26, 27, right? And when the market is red, when people are unemployed, when shit goes down the fan, when all of this kicks up, what are you going to do? I've done this previously, and it worked wonders for me. I could live way more than, I could actually live within my means way higher than I'm doing right now, but I choose not to do so. Why? Because I know controlling myself will allow me to accumulate more USDT, USDC, and then strike if there's blood. Like, for example, today, I'm buying projects today. Why? Because it's, I believe in the long-term ability of this industry to come back very quickly and make people feel like mothers who forget the pain of giving birth. So save first, spend later, set financial goals. Most of your financial goals, and I tend to review hundreds of different portfolios, the mindset is that, of course, I'll spend now and I'll borrow credit later. If anyone's going to borrow credit, I would definitely take credit, no doubt. But I'll do it to invest. I will never take credit for the sake of buying something. I don't need material things in my life. I need love, family, health, and wealth is a gradual mindset. The mind is more powerful than anything else you can imagine. So save now, spend later. It takes your stress away, and it gives you the insurance, the ability to go and have a regular life, enjoy your loved ones, of course, and then spend when you need to spend, and spend on meaningful things. Don't go and buy a Lambo. With all the money I've made in crypto, I've never been tempted to go and buy a 2-seater car. I don't give a shit if it's fast. I don't care. It's not my lane. It's not my look. It's not my style. Years ago, I never had it. Why would I all of a sudden elevate myself into a fake status where I'm flashing these things? Get a nice, treat yourself. Get a nice car. Pay off your mortgage, so you could have mental freedom, right? So that's also quite an interesting thing. Save now, spend later. Set financial goals. Have a goal. If this cycle is to pay your loan, pay your loan. If this cycle is to pay your mortgage, go pay your mortgage. Clear your credit cards. A free man with no debt or a free woman with no debt is a totally different animal than someone that thinks about the debt every single day because that's what they want you. They want you to be, an NPC in the system. They want you to work, pay taxes, and die, and leave your loved ones very little. So as you set your financial goals, start investing early. What do I mean by that? The bear market tends to tie up money longer. So be prepared to understand the bottoms. In the community, I have published a list of 8 projects that I would technically buy, or 7 projects. Let's just make it 5 even. But I've posted 8 that I believe have generational capacity. They are things that are changing the world financial system. And I've taken that lesson from the .com bubble. Pets.com was one of the largest online pets company in the world. It's no longer here. There are hundreds of blue chip companies that never made it. Apple did, Google did, few others did, right? SanDisk, IBM, but the list is about 10. So understand, not all of the cryptos that we have today will survive and make. Start investing early, of course. Catch a sui at 50 cents, 40 cents, 20 cents, whatever it comes back down to. Catch a tower under $100, and you're good. Avoid debt. Debt is slavery. Slavery is debt. Paying debts is your early graveyard. And that's what, unfortunately, the Western system is built on debt. And I do believe that the debt avoidance trap, because instead of committing to your investments, they'll get you to commit to your debt. And let's say you take $100,000 out in the bear market, and you've got, a stable job or whatever you're paying back with, and you invested the money beautifully. You don't give a shit about that. That's taking their money to make you money. And I'm not talking about not doing something like that. Again, don't go risky, because all you need is a 10x or whatever. But that is, absolute no. And save early. Important to start saving as early as possible. Now, this one is, for me, a kind of an open, this never ends, right? Like, so you can save any time. But I consider my investments as savings, because I'm delaying gratification. Delayed gratification is always the case. Now, age to start, this is obviously Mr. A is at 30-year-old, Mr. B is 45. Everybody's at different ages. Amount saved per year. This is coming from the traditional fiat system. Let's say you've got a 5K or 10K portfolio, and regardless of your age, you need X amount to retire and to feel comfortable, whether you're going to go and live in the country or whether you're going to go and make, travel the world, whatever your plans are, right? Saving has it's never too late, and you can never save early enough, right? It's an open thing. So avoid some of the traditional traps that the world that we live in currently sets. And those traps are mostly based around the fact that you should be conforming to a 9-to-5. That's all you do. And as a result, that's all you're going to get. Now, new global order will come. And as the new global order comes, or the new world order, there's always going to be factions that have, is it going to be East and West? Is it going to be China, US? The US is a kind of an older, more imperial, decaying superpower, just like the British Empire was. But we're looking at Ukraine. We're looking at China. We're looking at tariffs. We're looking at all of these things, and these things are not happening in isolation, right? These things are not happening. This is your world as you see it, and something will break. Whether they attack Iran, declare war there, whether Taiwan, China kicks off, and something will happen somewhere. And I'm telling you now, these guys, and you can see, look, it's out in the open, right? And you have, it's new global order. So when the bear market comes, it will bite. A lot of people will lose their jobs. But if we're planning and thinking like we are right now, we're going to be fine. having too much or too little is not the point. The point is being aware enough, being smart enough to understand your current status for either, FOMO or FUD or being scared is not the way to live. You are one of the select few that are looking at their future and investing in a life-changing industry, however rocked that industry is. I've put like 7 or 8 golden rules into our Discord, and I do believe this is one of the most valuable things I can share with you. As we're seeing in our Discord right now, we have a section here called Community Resources and Guides. Now, my 6 rules, right, which I'm happy to share with the community, is don't chase pumps, don't over-rotate, don't believe the hype, right? And of course, don't underestimate the market. Do not underestimate that the market could go to zero anytime. And don't be greedy and don't outsmart yourself. And these are lessons that I've learned in previous bull markets. Okay, guys, I hope you find this video useful. It is, of course, maybe we can cover this in a live stream, but this is to genuinely come out from the bottom of my heart for the community and tell them what's to come will be way harder than what we're seeing right now. And this is not going to cause any panic, because at the end of the day, everybody needs to have future plans. And if we can plan together, and we don't outsmart each other, because that's what a lot of retail investors do. They are way too clever for their own good. They think like institutions without institutional money. Whether it's leveraging or spot holding, an institution can actually make an impact. If you're $100,000 down on a leverage trade, they can put $1 million in terms of cross margin. We can't do that. We can't afford to make any mistakes. This money belongs to our children. We're trying to build future together here, guys. And if you follow my 6 golden rules, I do believe you'll make it in crypto. And it's not about an individual project or a pump and dump, but these are the laws governing my crypto investment. And they've made me financially free over the last 8 years. So first of all, again, I'll repeat, don't chase pumps. Don't give a shit. If something comes, oh my God, this is going 50x. High token turnover plus constant new narrative, easy way to get wrecked. I've learned that in 2021. Stick to your core and smart and tradable flips. Of course, if I can get a 10x on a meme coin or a 10x on something, fine. Take money, pay yourself. Go take your family on holiday, right? Don't over-rotate. I promise you now, the coin you sell is the coin that does 100x or 10x or 20x. At the wrong time. I'm not saying you sit there and hold. If you have no conviction, then you should not be in it. But that's exactly what happens, all right? Don't be greedy. Retail loves, take profits and repeat. If it's, so what if you expected 100x and it does 20x? Close the thing. Set your profit taking levels when you start moving to exchanges. So if you're, say for example, you've got something that's listed on Binance and that the market is going nuts, move it to the exchange and take profit levels. But I believe this will get you to do absolute wonders for this cycle. I wish I had somebody who was publicly putting this out, their golden rules, instead of just talking about pump and dumps all the time. Yes, that happens. We get sucked into the market. But the most important video that I'll make on my YouTube channel is probably this one, because as we approach towards the business end of the season and people are getting caught out, this is probably what we need to focus on in order to deliver excellence for our members. Smash a like, guys, subscribe to the channel. And yeah, let's discuss that in the comment section. Take care.